having a concert in a private home in celebration of our 125th anniversary. All weekend long, as you know, we started on Friday and we're going to finish tonight in the harbor. We have a lot of things going on. This is a joint program with the Larchmont Historical Society as well as Celebrate Larchmont. And Houlihan Lawrence has also underwritten the program, so we're very grateful to Houlihan Lawrence. Thank you very much. Something that we do annually, we started it about 10 years ago. We give an award to our Larchmont luminaries. And we pick someone who's living and someone posthumously. And we try to pair them up to match them according to their skills, whether they're in the arts or in sports, if they're writers. And so this year, we thought it would be an awful lot of fun to choose our posthumous, I love that word, recipient. And that is, I'm going to mess it up, Ignacy Jan Paderewski. Is that right? Oh, gosh. Okay, I'm from Oklahoma. That's hard to say. All right. And then our living recipient is Nina Kuzma Sapieska. Oh, gosh. Okay, I win. So let me just tell you just briefly a little bit about, in the 1918 edition of the Larchmonter Times, that was the newspaper here, they had these columns where they would do personal mentions. They'd talk about the comings and goings of local residents. And our archivist, Lynn Crowley, who is here, in the October 12, 1918 edition, it was noted that Monsieur Paderewski of Fleming Park has moved to New York City. Fleming Park was the area bound by Bay and Ocean Avenues, and they had a lot of rental cottages there which no longer exist. Now, that came as a surprise to a lot of us that he actually lived here. And there are a lot of similarities. They're both Polish. They're both fabulous pianists. He was a composer as well as a statesman. So we think that's wonderful. We have an award to give you. We'll do it at a different venue, but I just wanted to let you know that she is our 2016 luminary. So just the last thing that I would like to say, I'd like to introduce my colleague and friend, Katie McLaughlin. She arranged for this lovely home. Our homeowners, Irene and Michael Goss. Eileen, I'm sorry. I need my glasses. I apologize. And this lovely instrument, the Steinway, when we had the tuner come in, she was loving tuning this piano. It's 1917 or 18? 17. Yes. And it's an unusual instrument. So you're fortunate to be here. We're fortunate to be here. And did you want to say anything about afterwards?
I would just like to say after the concert, everybody please stay and have a little more champagne, prosecco, and hors d'oeuvres. Also, even though the evening is called for 7, I know that there are more events for the 125th anniversary celebration. Please do feel free to stay and take a look at the house. It's on the market. And Eileen and Michael did this massive renovation with everything so period appropriate, and we're just all so delighted to be able to have this evening here and really celebrate historical Larchmont.
Thank you. So, everyone, Nina Kuzma Sapieska.
I'll begin my recital with Nocturne by Ignacy Jan Paderewski. His Nocturne, Opus 16, number 1. Chopin, Frédéric Chopin's Nocturne, F major, opus 15, number 1.
name is Lorraine Walsh. I'm the mayor of Larchmont, and I wanted to welcome all of you to the final event of a wonderful weekend of celebrations for the 125th anniversary of the incorporation of Larchmont as a village within the state of New York. And she has spent this entire year, more than a year actually, when she first came up with the idea of doing a 125th anniversary celebration, probably close to 2 years ago, and brought it to the village as an idea. And then she's taken the leadership role for this whole year, planning the events last September and planning all the events for this weekend. I also want to thank Bubba Finelli, who is one of the trustees on the Board of Trustees, who really did yeoman's work, especially yesterday, making sure that the street fair went well and corralling everybody and just, doing his usual keeping up the spirit. Also, Jim DeBono, who helped a lot yesterday with setting up the street fair, and all of the other, many volunteers. His wife Rossi. I mean, there are so many people I can't even name, but I thank them all greatly. I also want to thank the founders of the 125. These are the people who were the first donors and really got this thing kicked off. And all of those families and businesses that purchased banners, which have been hanging in the commercial district on our lampposts for a year as sponsors. The Women's Club of Larchmont, which sponsored a couple of events, one in particular on Friday afternoon, which was the Victorian Lady, and that was a really wonderful event. The Larchmont Historical Society, of course, have sponsored many of these events and have done a lot of the history into the background of Larchmont and have been out and telling everybody the story of Larchmont this weekend. The Horseshoe Harbor Yacht Club, which we will see their contribution after the movies. The Manor Park Society, of course, for allowing us to have our movie presentation here in the park tonight. Houlihan Lawrence, United Stage Associates, the Larchmont Professional Firefighters Association, who brought all of the equipment for watching the movie and set it all up for us and are here tonight. The Larchmont Police Department and the Larchmont Volunteer Firefighters, who also helped a lot setting up, directing traffic, taking care of people yesterday at the street fair. So, without further ado, I introduce to you Ben Modell, who is a Larchmont resident. Yes, sir? Formerly a Larchmont resident. Maybe he'll come back to us someday and he'll tell us a little bit about this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much. My name is Ben Modell. I grew up in Larchmont. I live in New York City now. What I do for a living is I create and perform live musical accompaniments to silent films, movies made in the 1920s and 1910s. It's a job no one has really had as a full-time job in about 90 years since sound came in. And when Dee wrote to me about doing a program, I thought it was a great idea, and I'm kind of honored to be part of these celebrations. In the 1970s, before home video and cable and DVDs and even tape, the only way, if you were a kid and you were really interested in old movies or silent movies, the only way to see more of them was either to wait until Channel 13 would show something, or if you knew a collector. And when I was 12, I got a copy of a book called The Silent Clowns, written by Walter Kerr. And Walter Kerr and his wife Jean lived in the house at the end of Beach Avenue down there. And I wrote him a letter telling him I was so interested in silent movies and silent comedy films, and my folks had heard that he had a collection of films in 16 millimeter, and he called me a few days later. And so for the next, really about 15 years, I would go to his house, and he would show me whatever I wanted to see. I went on and went to film school at NYU in the city. But we're going to see two short comedy films, one with Charlie Chaplin, one with Buster Keaton, two of his favorites. And Walter Kerr, for those who don't know who he is, Walter Kerr was the drama critic for originally the New York Herald Tribune and the New York Times, won the Pulitzer, and his wife Jean is a humorist and a playwright. That's the famous Please Don't Eat the Daisies house down there. And over here, just behind us, I just learned that this mansion here is a Proctor mansion. The Proctor is a theater chain of RKO Proctor Theaters. There's a Proctor Theater in Yonkers that's still standing. It's a bank now. And I just found a film that was shot in there in 1919. So what I do is I'll be playing the piano just as was done many, many years ago in every single movie theater throughout the country, from the beginning of cinema until around 1928, 1929. I also just learned that another film connection about this evening, that tonight was the last night at the Larchmont Movie House. Is that correct? Yeah. So so there's a lot of cinema history things happening here. Westchester and there were movie studios in Westchester. D.W. Griffith had a studio in Oriental Point in Mamaroneck. The Thanhauser studio was in New Rochelle, and they were very active from around 1910 to 1918. And there was a studio in Yonkers called Mittenthal. So there was a lot of film being made out here in Westchester. Larchmont was a place where people came out in the summertime. There's a house, a very small house on Park Place or whatever it's called over there, a small house that Mary Pickford rented in 1916 during the summer. And Douglas Fairbanks, who had got to know her, came out and stayed somewhere here in town. And that's part of how they got together. So it was a place where people because New York was really the center of production in the teens. So we're going to see two films, one called The Adventurer, not The Floorwalker, with Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was one of the top silent film comedian all over the world. And this film is a lot of fun. It was one of the first movies I ever owned a copy of myself on 8mm. And the second film is called The Scarecrow, and it stars Buster Keaton, who was really one of the top 3 comedians besides Chaplin and Harold Lloyd. And Keaton was a huge favorite of Walter Kerr's, and back in the 70s, Keaton's films were very hard to see, but Mr. Kerr had collector prints of them. It was the way I got to see his films, and they're all on video now. So we don't need to wait for the lights to go out because they're out. So let's turn back the clock about 95 years, and we'll enjoy these two wonderful films again. Thanks so much for coming.
shout out to United Stage Associates. Yay, Bubba. Okay, and to the professional firefighters. They're the ones who supplied our screen, our projector, and all of this. And to the Manor Park Society for allowing us to actually do this. And to celebrate Larchmont, that's the fundraising arm of Larchmont 125. So thank you for coming out. Enjoy the boats, and we'll see you in 25 years. Good night.